along comes a repeat of one more. And so I'm forced to don my judicial wig and become an arbitrator of another area of misunderstanding, disagreement, stubbornness, and just plain ignorance in the JKD world. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast number 176. This is the one about the Jeet Kune ranges of combat issue. As you're logging in, if you'd be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button and feel free to continue doing so throughout the broadcast. If you're catching the simulcast over on the YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support the program, please visit jkdrebel.com, click on the Rebel Gear link, and that's where you can find stuff like this, the 4 tenets of JKD t-shirt, available short sleeve, long sleeve, hoodie, coffee mug, all that good stuff. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast. Okay, so the more I involve myself with these Facebook's postings, the more convinced I become that some people are in it just to attract attention to themselves. Some like to hear themselves talk. Some like to argue. Some are really interested in discussion. Some really want to share knowledge and information. And some really want to learn from this knowledge and information. But I will leave it up to you to determine who's who. This particular whole issue starts with the fact that at one point there was something taught called the 4 ranges of combat: kicking, punching, trapping, and grappling. So kicking was taught as being the longest away from the opponent, since it was measured by the extension of the leg. Punching was inside of kicking, and that was taught as the extension of the lead arm. Inside of punching, but not yet close enough to use the elbow or the knee, and that was taught as trapping range. And then grappling range was taught as progressively getting closer and closer to the opponent, where you could now lock or throw or sweep or choke or take down or what have you. So the claim that's being made is that Bruce Lee never taught something called the 4 ranges of combat. Instead, Bruce Lee mentioned, when it came to ranges, he talked about long range, middle range, and close quarter. And this is where, in this particular posting, people went to town, as we say, on their interpretations of what this is all about. So some people increased the 4 ranges up to like 6 or 7, while other people decreased the 4 ranges down to about 3 or 2. Some people described it as an academic exercise designed to get us to think about our art. Some pointed out that JKD during Bruce Lee's lifetime evolved, and that continued evolution is therefore desirable. Other people countered that adding styles to Jeet Kune is not evolution, but is devolution instead. Others realized that the range of combat thing was part of the ongoing effort to better define an idea in Jeet Kune, and still others determined there's really not separation as such, because the 4 ranges overlap. And lastly, before I tell you what's the right way to look at this, I'm just kidding, right? Other people opined that kicking, punching, trapping, and grappling are actually skills of empty-handed combat, and they can be applied at long, middle, and close quarter ranges. The main issue was presented. I grabbed a screenshot of it here. It was presented using this graphic as an example. Let me pull it up for you so you guys see what I'm talking about. So this is the graphic. uses an example of how things were being changed from what Bruce Lee taught, and that the adding of styles to Jeet Kune Do is what was going away from the way Jeet Kune Do was taught. And this is, I guess, would be an example of the devolution of Jeet Kune Do, because it's taken the teachings further and further away from the original. So in this particular pictorial sequence, Sifu Inasano is he uses the term the Jeet Kune Do blend, and he illustrates that kick and range could be a chasse from boxe française, and then you could punch and go into maybe a trap from Wing Chun, right? So you could punch from boxing and maybe go into a trap from Wing Chun. And then as you get closer into the opponent, you could use a lock and a takedown from Jiu-Jitsu. And in the video, this is what he uses the term, the Jeet Kune Do blend. So I pointed out that, yes, Sifu Inasano never mentions 3 ranges in this particular sequence. The point that he is saying that you can choose a system when you're in any of the 4 ranges. The idea that he was encouraging people to pick different systems, that he was saying pick a style or choose a style, a different style when you're in kick and range. Now choose another second different style when you're in punch and range. Now choose another third different style when you're in trap and range. Now choose another 4th different style when you're in grappling range. This is the idea. Now, many times I leave people alone, but when it's a take on an Inasano teaching, I tend to speak up, simply because you cannot take an isolated video sequence and believe that this is an example of all of Dan Inasano's teachings. Now, what you can do is to take a particular video sequence and describe it in a way that suits your opinion. You can do that. But your opinion on what Dan Inasano is teaching is not necessarily what he was actually teaching. So it all depends on your perspective. Okay? So I'll give you my perspective on this. What Sifu Dan is actually showing here is something called the 3 stages of combat. Actually, it might even be the 3/4 stages of combat. The kick is an entry technique. The punch is a follow-up technique. And if that punch happens to be obstructed, then you're now at midpoint, so you can use trapping. And then the takedown, the lock or what have you, is a finishing technique. That's actually what is being depicted here. The phraseology that he happens to use, kick and range, punch and range, trap and range, grappling range, I can't tell you why he was using that. I suspect, based on when this video was actually recorded, he was probably dabbling in boxe française at the time. And so he was on the seminar circuit and highlighting certain aspects of boxe française. That's a possibility. But you cannot take one incident and use that as an example of everything that Inasano teaches. What he was showing as, again, the blend is the seamless blend of combat stages, not adding different martial arts and calling them Jeet Kune Do. Now, another consideration here is also something known as the combat distances. Now, what I just realized is that this might be peculiar to us here in Miami. This thing about stages of combat and combat distances might have been stuff that I came up with for my own understanding and for the understanding of my students. But you could bet that a lot of it is based on stuff that I got from the people that I have trained with, right? Anyhow, to start to wrap this up, we have to be careful that we don't keep getting caught up every week in these nonsensical discussions. Bruce Lee's been gone for almost 50 years. He was an incredible human being, but he was not perfect. And it is true that I think it was Lee Sherrod pointed out, everything evolves, even Jeet Kune Do. So this is not an argument for adding stuff to Jeet Kune Do and calling it evolution, but it is certainly not an argument for leaving everything in JKD just as it was in 1967, right? Fortunately for us, there's so much to Jeet Kune Do that we will continue to have lively discussions, but hopefully it won't be dragging out these decades old stupid arguments over who spent more time with whom, who got it right and who got it wrong, and that kind of nonsense. That's not the kind of discussion that I'm interested in at all. So what say you? After all this, are you going to continue to say that Dan Inosanto is teaching something different from what Bruce Lee taught? Are you going to continue to say that there are 4 ranges of combat? What are you going to continue to dispute? Are you going to continue to bring up stuff that we have talked about over and over again? Because this particular issue of the 4 ranges of combat, this was brought up 2 years ago in October, I believe, of 2019. So this is not the first time that it's appeared on Facebook. So is that what you're going to do? Or are you going to add this to your store of knowledge and move on to higher heights in your Jeet Kune Do? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. On Friday, the 16th, April 16th, Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode with Dean Lawler of Lawler Tactical Training, and that should be at the regular 6 p.m. Today is a not too often russet day. There you go. So I'll see some of you back here on Friday for the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. If not, I'll see you next Wednesday for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebels, signing off. Take care, guys and gals.